This podcast was made possible by our members on armchairhistory.tv. Use code ARMCHAIRCHATS for 60% off of your first month.
There's this other issue of like constant growth. This is like kind of like a capitalistic kind of like mindset where it's like it's like, how are you doing December of last year? You better be up 40%. So you have this exponential growth, which is very damaging in my opinion, because if I was running a gaming company and say we made, this year we made 5 million, I'm good with that. You know, like I don't need to make, 8 million next year. I'm like, this is good. I have my team. I don't need to expand. I don't need to make more games. We're good. Like, we're happy. I don't understand why that can't be a thing. And I feel like that's the other issue with Total War is that every year they're like, oh, we got a new office here, and they're working on this and this, and it's like, I think they just expanded too quickly and they're just trying to constantly grow that.
I noticed that too. I think there's definitely if they had not opened all these, I think they had one's in Bulgaria or something, or Sofia or something like that. If they had just not spent the money on that and spent the money instead on just developing just regular historical games that fit within the lines of what people have been asking for, even if they had made less money, I think something that maybe wasn't accounted for as well, or maybe it's just negligent, but the costs to run the company would be lower, and therefore you don't need that amount of, but like you said, they want to see on the paper the number going up, and it doesn't matter if they had opened another studio. They want the revenue coming in to keep doubling, and that's definitely a huge problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's because the investors, they got to see it growing, and that's, I mean, even with my brother, he does like a tech thing, and the company's doing fine, but they fired a bunch of people to reach that 40% growth. Yeah, and it's just disgusting. It's like, oh, okay, so you just kicked people out of their job, which they live off of, to reach some stupid, quote, just to make investors happy. And so I think there's a big part of that as well. I think CA just wanted to be a big dog, up there with Ubisoft or whatever, and
I think as well a lot of the decisions made by executives tend to be short term because they want to maximize profit on the paper of what is here and now. So like you had mentioned the engine, remaking their engine or improving it or starting from scratch, whatever they wanted to do, is not going to result in short term financial gain. So you're just going to keep putting that off and pushing that.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, they did do that. They would kind of start to do it, and they kept pushing it off and pulling people away to work on other things. And that was, I think, what happens too, from what I've heard, and it's all kind of alleged, nothing is really confirmed, but that their engine is so old that as they keep pushing the standards higher and higher with their games and adding more to them, it becomes so unstable that the people who are supposed to be working on the new engine need to be pulled to fix the problems with the old engine, but they're not truly fixable. It's all band-aids. So you just need to keep pulling those people off. But if they just focused on not having rapid expansion so much and reworked on that engine and kind of went back to their roots and what made them successful. Again, I'm not a corporate, I don't know the full picture, but it definitely seems from the outside that it just seems chaotic. Nothing really seems like it's being run efficiently. And I think that speaks in the numbers of, if you look on the player charts for their recent titles, you can clearly see they're not doing great. So whether, we're wrong in a few of these things and we're kind of speculating, the fact remains that they're in some kind of trouble. And I'm just kind of curious where they go from here. But
yeah, I mean, I hope, honestly, again, I hate to see people fired, but, I feel like if this is a humbling experience for them, they get someone new, someone that loves the game, or, I mean, that's a lot to ask for, but you get people who actually care for the game. And I just want them to say, hey guys, let's go back to our roots. Let's build a good historical game. Something where
imagine if they use that in the marketing. I would imagine all the comments and the audience eating that up if they use that as one of their taglines, and if it was genuine, if they really meant that. And it's one of those areas where it crosses over between people liking it and it doing well financially in terms of players. I genuinely do believe they would get a lot of players back and on board with that. It's not necessary. There's sometimes where if you appease the hardcore fans, you end up making a game that only appeals to 1% of your player base. But I genuinely believe this is one of those areas where it crosses over between the hardcore fans and actual profitability, that if they went back to their roots genuinely, it would actually end up being successful for them. I think the standards are so low at this point. That's all people want from them.
Yeah. And you could even do a cool, like, if it's like Medieval 3, you could have like the trailer is some young, like, coming to age lord that has a claim to his mother's territory, and he has a Casibellum or whatever, and he's got to return to his roots, or something like some metaphoric, like this is us returning to greatness, and
instead we got a dung beetle pushing some crap.
A turd, yeah.
That was the last trailer. For those who don't know, is a dung beetle pushing some crap forward.
Yeah.
That was a very odd trailer. When I saw that, I immediately just started laughing, just sharing that with everyone. But
yeah.
Anyways, I don't mean to make the podcast a let's hate on Total War.
Hey,
but I definitely
it's therapeutic, man.
Yep.
Thanks for listening. To hear the full version of this chat, become a Sarge or Officer tier member over on armchairhistory.tv. Use code ArmchairChats for 60% off of your first month.